Okay, so I'm gonna go live on the video now for whoever is. And then I'll start the recording also. No, start recording here. Okay. All right, we are live. Hello, everyone watching live here or watching live in the future. I'm here. Look at this, so exciting. Daryl Dobbs from Dobber is here. Oh my God. Okay, so this is gonna be really cool. All right, so I guess I'll just I'll just get going with the show. Oh, I didn't even ask you, like, how much time do you have? So I could keep it within a limit here.
Well, I was thinking 30, 40 minutes.
Okay. All right. So definitely just let me know if we're getting there. So it's like 8.
But yeah, if conversation just keeps rolling and
okay, so around 9, I'll check in with you and see if it's okay, cool. All right. I'll just get started then. Yeah, yes. Welcome everybody to an episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by a guy who's super stoked to be celebrating episode 500 with one of the OGs of fantasy hockey projections and everything. You know him so well as, I don't know, the creator, the manifester of dobberhockey.com, and obviously the creator of the world famous annual guide with projections for every single player. It's the man himself, Daryl Dobbs, aka Dobber. Dobber, welcome to Keeping Karlsson.
Thank you for having me. Long overdue.
Yeah, I feel like when you messaged me, like, do you want to have, when are you guys gonna have me on the show? I was like, oh my gosh, anytime. This is so cool. Yeah, and it's great timing because your guide just came out, and we're all in the patron Discord, like talking about all the different projections and stuff. So any player that anyone's asked about now, I could just ask you. So I actually queried the patrons for players they want me to ask about. I came up with some for myself. So I guess the plan for today is, I'll ask you a bit about how you put this document together, and then we could dive into some players that people are the most curious to get your thoughts behind. But yeah, maybe just to get started,
all right.
Can you maybe give the quick history? Like, how long have you been making the Dobber guide for at this point?
Oh, it was the site launched in 2005, so right from the get-go. I mean, I was doing projections on my own for a good, I don't know how long, decade. And I felt that they were better than what I saw out there. And then
was there a lot out there at the time?
I mean, there was Forecaster McKean's and Hockey News, as far as I know, in Canada anyway. And so when I had my own website, or once I was writing for the Hockey News, and then kind of the lockout led to the launch of the website, I put them up for sale for like, I think it was like $1.99 initially. I called it a pool guide supplemental. So I was marketing it as like, if you buy your pool guide, your Forecaster or your Hockey News, here's the supplemental, something that you can have as like a sidekick to the real guide. And then it started selling well. And when I went full time with this in 2007, just made it its own fantasy guide on its own, and just started growing from there.
Yeah, I think the coolest thing that I always found is the fact that it keeps updating, so that you like buy it once, you can keep downloading the new projections all the time. I guess we'll see what kind of stuff comes up. Is your plan basically just to watch all the training camp news and just have your finger on the button to go and make changes as we see like interesting line combinations, or are you more the type that like you don't want to like make too many changes to what you thought just based on preseason stuff?
No, I'll make all the big changes, but I don't micromanage because this is a big picture kind of guide. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've already made 3 updates today.
Oh yeah, what are they?
I was what were they? One was the Montour.
The injury timeline,
the adjustment, and then I put in the Band-Aid boys on the draft list.
Nice. Yeah. So people just need to always be re-downloading this thing.
Yeah, and then I think I put in like a training camp invite or something, like minor thing like that. But yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So I guess the other question I wanted to ask you is, how do you come up with the projections themselves? Like, I don't know, I assume you're building some sort of model, or obviously you're using past data, like some hunches, like how exactly, you take a guy, I don't know, like say Brandon Montour, he just had a career year last year. That's just a name out of, for example, like how do you like sit down and be like, okay, now I'm going to come up with how many goals, assists, games, points, like, power play.
The points per game model was done in university as a project, actually, a third year university math operation. I can't remember the course, third year. And I created that. I made a model, predict the the points per game for the future based on the last 3 years. Age, their position in the depth chart, a couple other things like that. And I've been using it ever since. I've had to kind of tweak it upwards when scoring went up and downwards when scoring went down. And, but more or less the main model, the crux of the formula is still there today.
Cool. And when you say like their position in the depth chart, I guess that's where there's some sort of secret sauce that goes in, where it's got to be a bit of gut feelings.
That is, that's where you got to dig in player by player, look at where they were last year, how they trended throughout the year. So you're not just looking at the year as a whole, but you're looking at how they finished versus how they started. You're looking at contract value, other players in that position, and you're comparing those things, and you're kind of juggling that.
I know one nice thing that I like is beside your projections, or in the guy, like you have, for example, like your prediction of like who's going to be on power play 1 versus power play 2. And like, for some defensemen, it's so hard to predict at this point. Like Brian and I have been racking our heads about like, Klingberg versus Morgan Riley, or like Seider versus Gostisbehere. Like,
no, that's a tricky part too. But I mean, a lot of these teams are power play 1 would be, you might see a player getting 245 a game, and then power play 2 guy might see 218 a game. So really, is that, the advantage to the power play 1 guy isn't so much the time, it's the unit around him.
Right, of course.
He'll get the first dibs on the top guys. And it's a lot to consider. You got to look at too their skill set overall. Like Klingberg really can't do defense, so what else are they going to use him for? So that's why I kind of like him as taking over PP1 over Riley.
Oh yeah, I saw. Yeah, I was going to ask you about Klingberg's projection.
We can get into that later. But yeah, I got some notes on that.
Cool. Also, I wanted to ask you before we dive into some more projections, like, I guess like it would be cool just to hear your thoughts on like anything like cool about the guide like this year or in recent times that you're especially excited about for people to see.
Well, I wish I had something for this year, because every year I've always seemed to add something, adding the advanced stats, 11, 12 years ago. That was a big thing. Growing that to a second page 4 years ago, that was big. Adding the hits, the blocks, the shots on goal.
Oh yeah.
All that stuff was great. This year, nothing tangibly new, but I did have a new behind the scenes way where I was really digging into trying to be more accurate with goals and penalty minute projections within the points. So just looking at more the last 3 years trends down the stretch, in the second half last season versus the first half.
So you give more weight to the second half than the first half?
Yeah, a little bit. And just trying to find a balance on all that. I probably, because I've been doing the points projections for years, that's second nature to me going through that. But the goals and the penalty minutes and the games played as well, projecting that, and who's tends to get hurt a lot, that took a lot more time than the points itself. I put a lot of time into trying to get those right.
And like you say, you put time into getting like games played right, for example, do you mean just like getting your formulas correct, or like actually going through each player and kind of thinking through if you're happy with what it spat out?
Yes, no, I have I trying new formulas and then going over them and seeing what makes sense with those player by player. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
look at your games played projections. There's some teams I'm really worried about. I see Nashville. You've got like the whole first line, like Forsberg and Novak and Ryan O'Reilly. Like all these guys are missing a lot of time according to your projections. So hopefully
yeah,
Nashville is hoping that you're not right about some of these.
I know. Well, Forsberg gets money in the bank. He's missing, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, some players are just like that. You just know that.
Yeah. So oh, sorry. Yeah. And I guess, yeah, before we get into the specific ones I wanted to bring up, I'd be curious to know, like, are there any projections that you like struggled with more than others? Any that jump out at you as like, oh, this one really kept on going back and forth on?
There's plenty of specific guys, right? And some of the guys on your list,
Are them?
yeah, that when we get there, I'll be like, yeah, that guy was a hard one to do. But there are bigger picture things too, like um, I remember right off the hop, Leo Karlsson, right? Is he going to make the Ducks? I
Oh,
got
sure.
him. Do they want to rush him? Is he going to leave them any choice? He's so good that maybe he doesn't leave them a choice and makes the team, right? And that's the repercussions of him making the team versus not making the team. There's a domino effect there too, right? Because he'll help his line mates get better. He'll be a rookie of the year. Well, I don't think anyone's going to contend with Connor Bedard, but Bedard aside, he would be a rookie of the year contender. Or he plays his 9 games and goes back across the pond. And so right off the bat, I was just really looking, trying to dig into how the scouts felt about it, his odds, what the management was saying, and there's examples like that through every team, but just interesting that right off the bat with Anaheim, because I go through it alphabetically. I'll
Oh,
start
yeah.
with Anaheim, and right off the bat, I got hit with that one. But there's other things too. Like Cousins again versus Middlestad jumps out at me. With Buffalo second or third line, I mean they're both so good. Middlestad is such a good setup guy. Cousins is, the higher upside guy and more reliable, it seems. But that was a tough one. Chicago was a big mess. Like, what do you do there? I mean, I spent a long time on the Blackhawks. They have like 13 wingers that could legitimately be their 8 wingers, and you got to pick 13. Right. So you're just looking at digging into the advanced stats. You're digging into what the management says. You're looking at their trends, their contracts. That's a big deal too. And then you got to go from there. And then Chicago, then their defensemen. I think they have like 4, right? So now you're looking at their prospects and going, is this guy ready? This guy ready? And you got to pick your next 4 out of that bunch. So
Yeah,
Chicago took like the amount of time it takes me to do 3 teams, Chicago alone. So that was a struggle.
Yeah, I'm looking at your Chicago page now, and like it's like Seth Jones, power play 1. That's a pretty easy one for the defense. And then
He's
it's
the
like
only on the whole team. Him and Bedard is about the easiest one, and then the rest is just.
I see right now you have Wyatt Kaiser like slotted in as PP2 defenseman. I'm sure most people listening don't even know who this is.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a tough one. All right, well, let's just dive into it here. Make best use of our time, and let's start in Chicago, since that's actually one of the projections that a lot of the patrons wanted me to ask you about. Definitely Connor Bedard. Is it fair to say of all the projections released so far, you're the highest? You've got him for a 91 point pace. So you've got him 78 games, 91. Oh no, just 91 points, actually, even a higher pace because if he plays 4 more games. What made you so bullish on Bedard? This is basically similar to what McDavid did in his rookie season.
Yes, and because I've been, I got to stick to my guns there, because I've been saying for the last, I don't know, year, long time, that I felt Bedard was as good as McDavid or better, could be better. So he can certainly match what McDavid did. I don't think that's a huge stretch, especially. I went over this too in the ramblings the other day, so it's kind of fresh on my mind. But goal scoring, McDavid's rookie year was 5.34 goals per game. And last year it was 6.29. So a full goal per game higher. Just the NHL overall scoring more. So I think matching, what McDavid did is, not a huge reach. I mean, McDavid had some better players around him, but Draisaitl at the time had only played, I don't know how many games. He only had like 9 career points before that year. They had McDavid. It's funny enough, he had Taylor Hall as well. Bedard is Taylor Hall, but
a different Taylor Hall.
McDavid's Taylor Hall was better. But McDavid didn't have Seth Jones, so and one could say Lucas Reichel has the same kind of track record that Draisaitl had that year too. So as far as team makeup goes, I don't think it's not that different. NHL scoring overall is up. If Bedard is as good as McDavid, as I think he is or will be, I don't think it's a big reach.
Yeah, that's reasonable. I mean, hard to argue, and that's one of the ones where we'll just have to wait and see. Like you said, it's like if he's as good as McDavid, which is like not very common, but that's what a lot of people are saying about him. But then I guess the maybe more interesting projection, though, I could dive more into Bedard because I'd love to. It's so hard now to figure out when to draft him.
That's the number one question I got from the guide, from everybody, right?
Yeah, I'd imagine. Yeah. But I mean, then there's obviously the trickle down effects because like you have Taylor Radish locked in currently as his like top line winger and also on the top power play, which made you project him for 53 points in 78 games. That's like a 56 point pace for a guy who's only played 2 seasons. Last year, Radish had only 37 points, like not even a 40 point pace. So it's a huge bump for him that you're projecting. I guess this is all just because you expect him to play a lot with a 90 point Connor Bedard.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, he'll get, line combinations are going to be moved around. They'll change as often as you change your socks, but Radish to me is the most likely guy to see the most time on the Bedard line. And this production, if you look at his 2 seasons, you see break it into half seasons. Each half season he's a little bit better. And he was a high draft pick. He's kind of like a bigger guy who, those bigger guys tend to pop a little bit later than normal players. And so him popping at, what is he, like 25, then that's kind of to be expected too. So yeah, no, I think he's the best candidate to see the most time on the wing, even over Hall. I don't kind of question whether Hall hangs on to that spot because, he was brought into Buffalo, right, to play with Eichel, and that didn't work out at all. And he's had his chances with great players, and he just isn't the same guy that he was, with New Jersey and Edmonton.
Yeah, so in deeper leagues, for sure, like 56 points isn't going to like win you your league, but that could be really solid late pick if you're right about that projection. Obviously, people who are drafting will sometimes, if they're drafting later, they'll have the benefit of seeing some training camp and getting more insight. And obviously, you will as well, and you could update the guide if it turns out Radish is like being used as like a 4th liner. But it sounds like that's unlikely. I think.
If things go sideways for him in training camp, for sure, I'm right on top of something like that. Anything important like that, I'm right on that and make the quick adjustment. But I'm pretty confident in that one. Confident enough to say that at worst he shouldn't be more than 7 or 8 points below what that projection is, and might even be a couple of points higher. So no, I think that's as far as sticking my neck out there goes, that's one of the easier ones for me.
All right. So yeah, I should, by the way, mention as I go through, I'm going to be bringing up guys who I find the projections, like, I guess, interesting because like maybe different than what they've done, in the recent past or whatever. Like, obviously I could also just spend the whole show just like telling you all the guys I agree with, but I don't know if that would be as fun. I don't want people to think that I'm going to be like coming at you with like, wow, Dobber, we disagree on everything, but
Yeah.
it's more fun this way. So yeah, the next one I wanted to bring to you is over in Washington. I saw a big number for Dylan Strome. You have him for 75 games and 70 points in those games. So as far as pace goes, that would bring him up to a 77-point pace, like pretty close to point per game for a guy who last year definitely broke out, right? He had 65 points in his 81 games. So now you have him like bumping up over 10-point pace more. Like, so I guess you obviously really believed in the breakout you saw last year in Washington, and like what makes you even think he'll be able to keep that up and even more so?
Yeah, I think that's a stepping stone last year. I think he's got a little bit more. I don't think he'll play a full season. I think he's a pretty steady guy in terms of missing 5 or 10 games. So I'm inclined to bet against him getting 77 points.
Right.
But yeah, the last year he broke out, but it also was a lot of that was in the final quarter. Really, he went nutty. Um, Burned me actually. I traded him like a week before March,
Oh no, I'm seeing
and
22 points in his final 18 games.
and March was like like some sort of best month of his career, or I don't know. So there was some sort of record. I don't know if it was the Capitals. No, it wouldn't be because of Ovechkin, but I don't know. I remember seeing something about that being very notable. His March, maybe it was the most points in March. No, it
Wow.
doesn't seem like that with Ovechkin. That's
But yeah, I'm looking at the game log now. There's like multi-point games all throughout that month for sure.
Yeah. No, that he had a poor third quarter. If you look further back, and if you dig a little deeper, you see that that's the quarter he played with Cabell, and so that was quite the line mate.
Yeah, but quite a downgrade. So you're expecting that Dylan Strome is going to he's taken over now, which is pretty wild, right? To imagine like just a couple of years ago, imagine telling someone that like Nicholas Backstrom and Evgeny Kuznetsov will be like not playing with Ovechkin and instead it'll be Dylan Strome. But I guess that's how it ended last year. And yeah, you've got Strome there, top line, top power play. So
And
I
I
guess
don't
happened.
believe in Kuznetsov at all. Something's wrong with that guy. I don't know if it's just getting comfortable in American culture or whatever it is. He's not working as hard or in the off season. I don't know. I just don't get a good feeling about him anymore. Backstrom, he's coming off of that hip injury. I probably feel more comfortable with Backstrom bouncing back than Kuznetsov.
Oh yeah. So I mean, you'll be able to get all these guys pretty late, but Dylan Strome is definitely the one who, if you're right about this, and I think that will be a real gem because he's still like not being taken super high in drafts. But yeah, I mean, he is a former third overall pick, so I guess finally getting the opportunity to show why.
He's another big guy, right? Too like
also takes more
Radish. So
time.
he's kind of popping at the time that my model would expect.
Cool. And then also like looking at the defense for Washington, I saw another exciting projection. Like I'm always excited whenever I see a defenseman that's like projected for more than 50 points. To me, that's like a defenseman who can produce it like above 50. That tells me that's a guy that's like going to be like pretty valuable in the majority of fantasy leagues. And Rasmus Sandin is someone who last year had a breakout himself at 35 points in 71 games. Obviously went off a little bit more when he got to Washington at first because John Karlsson was injured. And so Sandin got on the top power play.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have him down here for so the actual points you have 47 in 73 games. And if you pace that out, that's a 53-point pace. Though I do see that you do have John Karlsson locked in on power play one. So I'd be interested to know like what makes you think Sandin is like a 50-point guy. Like even if are you thinking maybe he'll get like some power play time along the way to help with that?
Yeah, no, he'll see some for sure. And Ovechkin plays both units, so he'll
Right.
have that. But I'm seeing, and you may want to raise your standards there on that defense from 50 to 55 or even 60, because they're trending upwards in a big way. You're seeing a lot more defensemen, 50 is the new 40, right? But what I'm seeing, really, since I guess March, what you're seeing is teams are aggressively going after players, acquiring players to match up with their studs. You're seeing if they have a lefty stud, they're going to get a righty puck mover. If they have a right-hander stud, they're going to get a left-hander. And I believe the thinking there is to match them up at even strength and have, a bit of a 5-player even strength unit. So in this case, you got Karlsson and Sandin. You saw the same thing with Philip Hronik and Quinn Hughes. I think Columbus did that for Werenski when they got Severson. Arizona with Valimaki, I think they went and got Dursey. I think teams are just trying to, fit pieces into the puzzle there and, become a little bit more potent, at even strength. So I think that's part of what I believe in with Sandin, but also, he can certainly take over for Karlsson if Karlsson gets hurt. That was, proven.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if Karlsson misses time, then you have to kind of, I guess, account for that. If you're trying to come up with a full season projection, you have to assume that maybe Karlsson could miss some time considering what happened last year.
So if he does get, flirt with 50 or get up there in the high 40s and, stays healthy enough to do that, to me, that's, it kind of hints at what's to come. The torch will be passed from Karlsson to Sandin in a year or two. But yeah, I'd like to see that initial step, first of all, and then, I would look at that as a sign of things to come for him.
Yeah, I mean, like Washington doesn't seem to have that many exciting D prospects, so definitely it would be great for them if Sandin can, live up to this pedigree you're giving him here. The pedigree he's earned himself also. Next up, I wanted to go to Toronto. I'm seeing a fun projection for Tyler Bertuzzi, who I guess you've decided that you're expecting him to be on the top line with Matthews and Marner, which is obviously a very good spot to be in. And we've seen, obviously, in the past, other players do really well there that before weren't much of anything. And Bertuzzi is someone who has produced very well in the past. He had a couple good years with Larkin over in Detroit. But yeah, so now if Bertuzzi is on the top line, you've got him down for 65 points in 69 games. So I guess missing time like he often does, but still that paces out to a 77-point pace, a near point per game. So I guess that's also something that we were talking about a bit beforehand, about whether we should be looking at the pace or just the total points. I'll tell you, the way I see it is I like to just think of it in terms of what's the guy going to do while he's in my lineup, and then when the guy gets injured, I'll throw him on IR, have fun in free agency, trying to find some, gems or whatever. But I want to know, if you think Bertuzzi is going to be near point per game, that's definitely very exciting for me. And obviously top line, I guess you don't have him for top power play, but it would be a huge season for him. It would be a career year. I guess obviously you're really liking this move to Toronto for Tyler Bertuzzi.
Yeah. Is that one yours or is that a patron's?
No, that was me.
Okay.
That one jumped out to me. I actually made some bad decisions with him in fantasy, so I might be regretting this.
But were those decisions based on being wrong or him being injured? Because it always comes down to that with him. It seems like. I mean, even last year, his down year, he was out for most of it. So
yeah, no, he hasn't played more than 73 games in his career, and that was already 5 years ago. So yeah, it's been a while.
Well, he had 20 points in his last 15 regular season and playoff games, and Austin Matthews made Bunting a 63-point guy.
Mm-hmm.
Bertuzzi's better than Bunting.
Yeah, I guess when you put it that way, it could be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's so there is this tiny risk that maybe a guy like Nicholas Roberts, Bertuzzi doesn't click and Robertson comes in to that line, but then Robertson gets hurt all the time too, or maybe Max Domi. There's other options there.
Matthew Nyes.
Really, Bertuzzi's got to be the hands down favorite for that spot, and it's you can almost lock it in.
Yeah, so if that's right, then again
he has to really have no chemistry at all and to fade down the lineup and miss on that projection. So yeah, I'm comfortable going all in on that one.
Yeah, so really this episode is kind of turning into like a sleepers episode, the Dobber sleepers, because yeah, I have a couple guys who you were lower on than like previous years, but for the most part, it's like guys that are higher that jumped out to me. The one guy that you're a lot lower on than he's been is Morgan Riley, also staying on the Leafs. You have him, I guess, losing the top power play as we discussed before to Klingberg, which would leave Riley, according to your projection, 43 points in 76 games. So a sub 50-point season for a guy who's been like a 70-point guy before. And last year, while he wasn't like too exciting, he still did pace for above 50. And then conversely, you have John Klingberg like up as a 57-point guy, which would be huge. So yeah, you're pretty confident that Riley isn't going to be holding that spot.
No, because a couple of reasons. One was he just didn't do well with it last year at all. They really gave him everything they could, and his power play IPP was very low. He didn't get a lot of power play points. So he just didn't thrive there at all. And he can also, he's also better defensively than Klingberg. He's not, a defensive stud by any stretch, but he's better. Klingberg really isn't good there at all. So if they don't use Klingberg for the power play, what are they going to use him for with that kind of money? To me, it's
you're following the money here.
Yeah, I'm following the money, and really a lot of it too relies on him being healthy. He's had injuries the last several years, and to hang on to that spot, he needs to at least establish himself before that inevitable first injury. But as long as it's just one or two minor injuries, and he just misses a few games, then I think he'll flourish, because that power play is potent. Mm-hmm. And anyone on that, that fifth man, that one defenseman and four forwards that they'll use, he'll really cash in.
Yeah, you would think so. Like, it's even surprising that Riley hasn't gotten that, like, with all the power play time he's had, he doesn't get as many points as you would expect him to. It's almost like he's not as big a part of it as a lot of power play like quarterbacks are. So yeah, we'll see if now Klingberg does better. Yeah, great opportunity for him for sure.
Yeah, I did. This is one of the ones I did struggle with, though. I mean, I did spend a lot of time really looking, and
I guess you'll be watching this one in training camp closely.
Yeah.
A lot of these are like that. Next up, here's one that jumped out at me over in Dallas now. Matt Duchene. So Duchene is coming off kind of a down year. Like, so 2 seasons ago, Duchene like popped up. Duchene's had a very weird career, right? Like, he was like point per game, looking great at the end of his time in Ottawa. Then he went to Nashville on that big contract, and then like kind of didn't seem like much of anything, was pacing for like 50, sub 50 for his first couple of years. Then he went off in 2021-22, the same year Forsberg really went off, and Duchene ended up with like 86 points in that season. And then last year, he fell all the way back down to 56 points, like a 65 pace if you average it out. And now he's over to Dallas, and you've got Duchene kind of bouncing back a little bit, like 61 points.
Yeah, which kind of like between his last 2 seasons.
Yeah. So you think he can do it? Because I always thought of Dallas as like this team where like you got that top line, and then Jamie Benn on the top power play last year, and it seems like everyone else just plays like a complementary role. But you see Duchene actually being at like a 70-point pace if you average it out.
Yeah, so I have him missing a dozen games, but yeah, that's and I think it's pretty safe that he will. But yeah, with this particular projection, I let the formula ride. I didn't tweak a thing with it. So he overextended 2 years ago. I think we can all agree he overproduced. Last year, I think he underproduced a little bit. His PP time will go down this season, but he wasn't putting up a lot of power play points anyway, so I don't know if that will necessarily impact his end result. He had 13 power play points. I think that's about what he'll get again. And his line mates are still very solid. I think he's going to be playing with Benn and Johnson.
Yeah, which pushes Tyler Seguin down to the third line. Seguin and Duchene are both like interesting guys that Dallas has, like former like huge superstars in the league that are now kind of like more depth or middle sixth roles.
Really good depth. Yeah. I mean, this is a better team for scoring than Nashville too. So you got to
Yeah,
factor that in.
that's a good point for sure. Yeah, so that'll be a fun one to see him bounce back. Hopefully hopefully for Nashville, or sorry, for Dallas, he doesn't miss like as much time as you're projecting though. Like lately, like last year he missed time and the year before also. So yeah. Okay, so next up, here's a fun one for Habs fans that must be excited to see this projection of Cole Caulfield. You've got him at basically like the same number of points as games, which does your formula, I guess, take into account, because obviously if you look at his last couple seasons, it was his first years in the league, he hasn't approached this yet, though he was looking really great last year before he got hurt. I guess, does your formula take into account some sort of age progression? Like as a player gets older, you expect them to get more points? I guess they would have
As they approach their prime years. Yeah. Yeah. And then as they leave their prime years, it goes the other way. Yeah, it has all that. Also looks at, in case of a player who hasn't been in the league for more than a year or two, it looks at other leagues.
Oh, I see.
So it's AHL time and NCAA time. But Caulfield, he's thrived at every level, and his points per game is, 0.64 and then 0.78.
Let's keep the trend going.
Yeah.
Which, like, especially, well, hopefully this doesn't happen, but especially if Yahoo keeps their positions how they are, then like wingers like already have a bit of a premium right now, and Caulfield is like could be a huge, like, this might be the last year where you can get him like pretty late. We've been doing mock drafts over on our Discord preparing for our Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League season, and you have guys like he's getting taken like after like Konechny, Kempe, Laine, Verhaeghe, which are all good players, Philip Forsberg. But yeah, Caulfield's gonna really go off now for like 45 goals and like 82-point pace. I know you have him missing some games.
Yeah,
definitely reasonable.
He's well, and also that comes with a warning. I have a reputation for liking the smaller skilled guys. So,
Okay, so we'll see at the end of the year.
Grain of salt time with that guy, right?
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, we'll have to see like how the lines work out. Like, I guess Caulfield will probably be on the wing with Suzuki. That worked out pretty well for him. I'll be really interested to see. You have Raphael Harvey-Pinard as the left wing on that line, which would make him pretty good. But obviously last year we saw Kirby Doc was there for a bit. Now they have Newhook in the picture. Slavkovsky's there. Like, it's really hard to predict.
I feel like the third member of that line is interchangeable.
Yeah.
So, you got to pick one to start. And Harvey-Pinard, I think, proved himself enough to get that start.
Yeah. And then, hey, in your bangers leagues, if Harvey-Pinard is on the top line and also is, producing his level of hits and penalty minutes and everything, then like that's going to be really useful for you. Even blocks could be, he was doing well for that. Okay, let's go to Ottawa, stay in Canada here. And I'm sure Sens fans are happy to see that you are liking the Tarasenko signing, at least in terms of his point pace. Maybe not as much in terms of the games played, which is obviously reasonable. Yeah, you have enough for 73 games, which isn't actually even that much missed time compared to how much he's missed, in the past. But yeah, 66 points in 73 games would put Tarasenko at a 74-point pace, which would definitely be better than what he's done, what he did last year in St. Louis. I guess just a change of scenery is something you think is going to be good for him. Yeah,
and I just like the Ottawa system and the potential for offense there team wide. His 21, 22 totals were too high, just like Duchesne, right? But last year I think were too low. And so again, it was let the formula ride again with him. But this is one that I have lower confidence in. Out of the players on your list, I'd probably put this one as my lowest confidence. Right, but I'm still maybe confident enough to put it in my guide, so I'll stand behind it. But I'm just, there's levels of confidence, right, with each player.
Oh, maybe that could be a feature in future guides, but beside each projection, you can like put some sort of marker.
I do in terms of what rookies make the team, and their confidence there, or sleeper picks, and I have a confidence value there. Yeah, I could keep going, do it for every projection too. Yeah, I like your confidence you have for every goalie. You have like your prediction or confidence that player will be the starter. Like you have your Korpisalo, 80% confident he'll be the starter, which I think is pretty good. Yeah, handy to know, because obviously
especially for these goalie projections. I didn't have any goalies that I was going to bring up. Brian and I have talked a lot about goalies lately. We dropped our all goalies episode a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that, it's all about just like trying to guess who's the starter, which is, it could change so much. And so obviously you have to take these projections with like, you have to go into it with a lot of just a guessing, because it's not like with this, you at least know Cole Caulfield is going to be in the lineup and most likely on the top line all season long, unless things go super haywire. But with some of these goalies like Korpisalo or
100% confident on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
the goalies were actually. Do you want to get into the goalies, or you want to keep going with
Yeah, sure. If you have a goalie take to drop.
Well, no, it was the goalie's confidence was done by Ian Gooding,
yeah, he's great
editor in Dobber Hockey, and I went over every one of them, and we're in lockstep. So those are two opinions. There's about 4 or 5 goalies that I tweaked, maybe 5-10%, but I don't think any further than that. The rest, I agreed with them wholeheartedly and let it ride. So yeah, you got 2 people putting their heads together on all the goalies there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes that's the best you can do is just give some confidence, like be like, Saros 100%, and then you have guys like Vanacek 75%. Sounds about right. You don't want to go too heavy on Vanacek because he could definitely lose it like he did in the playoffs. I'm just like browsing through the guide as we're talking. It's really fun. Okay, so actually off the air, I guess it's 6:50. Do you want me to keep going through the list, or do you want me to start wrapping up now? I'm good.
We'll keep going. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just like then keep going, and then just let me know if at some point you need to head out. But okay. All right. Next up, let's go to the defending Stanley Cup champs. Let's go to the Conn Smythe winner. Conn Smythe winner and Jonathan Marchessault, who obviously had that amazing playoffs, but I don't know how much you're like taking playoffs into account in your model, because you've got him keeping that playoffs going with a 75-point pace overall. Though, if you look at the last season, he only had 57 points, like only a 62-point pace. And actually every single year in Vegas, like basically he had that amazing first year in Vegas where he was near point per game, 75 points in 77 games. And since then he's never come close to 75. But yeah, your projection for next year has him having his best year since the first year in Vegas. So I'm curious to know, is that just you just watch the playoffs and you're like, this guy clearly has more to give, or maybe is it just like how much he's clicked with Eichel there?
That's 100% Eichel. That was down the last 15 games or so of the season and the playoffs, where it was him and Eichel and Barbashev.
Oh, I'm seeing 16 points in his last 20.
So he's I'm all in with that chemistry there. I mean, yeah, you've seen chemistry before where their 2 players are amazing together for 30, 40 games, then they start the next season and it's completely gone. So there is that possibility, but I'm banking on it. And again, you don't draft him high because no one else will. You can let him fall and draft him later. But yeah, I believe he'll get up to the 70-point mark, provided not only he stays healthy, which he usually does, but
Eichel has to. Yeah.
Eichel has to. That's the key, and that's your issue there. He could play 50 games, he could play 70. You just don't know with Eichel.
Yeah, and then also I guess it would be nice if like Mark Stone could also be there on the power play. But that's another guy who is hard to predict how many games he'll play. I think it's even been said that like they don't expect Stone to play a lot of games next year, but I guess we'll have to see. But yeah, Marsh. So that's interesting. Yeah, I really like this idea of looking at the splits, because I guess people, when they make their 3-year averages, it's a lot of like, giving more weight to the most recent season. So why not go even more granular and give more weight to like the recent time, especially if some new line combinations came out that you expect to stick. Like Dylan
well, they're not breaking up those 2 guys, right? They're just that line was just too good. Mm-hmm. They're not breaking it up. They would have to fall flat for like the first 15 games before finally they get split up.
So I wanted to look at a couple of guys who you had a little bit lower than they did last year. And so a couple that jumped out at me. One is Arturi Lehkonen, who had a really great, first full season in Colorado last year, 51 points in 64 games. So yeah, missed a lot of time, but 65-point pace in the time that he was there. I just actually saw a tweet today. I was getting made fun of on the last episode, actually, that I've been getting too into these like training tweets, but it was like Ryan Johansson and Lehkonen and Rantanen were playing on a line together and making some cool plays happen in practice for whatever that's worth. But you have Lehkonen like a little lower than I would have
expected. That one. Yeah.
It was pretty cool. But yeah, so you have like, oh, well, now that you see it, you could update the guide. But right now you have Lehkonen as with a 59-point pace, even though he's projected for the top power play. And I would think if he's like playing, with either McKinnon or Rantanen on the top power play, I would have expected him to maybe be able to keep up what he did last season. So I'm curious if there's like something you're seeing in Colorado which makes you think that he's going to go down.
Well, and that's the case where top power play, while McKinnon will get whatever, he'll get 340 a game or whatever. And Rantanen 340 a game, Makar 340 a game. Then you go to Lehkonen, who would be what, 235? That's technically top power play, for the purpose of the guide. But what if Johansson gets in there for, if Lehkonen plays 51% of the top power play unit time? What if Johansson gets in there for 30 or 40%? And what if Drouin gets a look for some shifts on that top unit? And that's kind of how I look at that with Lehkonen. He's not like the full-time guy. I mean, obviously he would be if he goes off to a blazing start, but I just don't know. And then what if they have so many good puck moving defensemen? What if they go 3-2? There's that.
I see. So you're kind of hedging out. I guess last year Colorado had like a lot of injuries, and so Lehkonen maybe got more power play time than he would have if like everyone was healthy the whole season.
Yeah, so, I mean, Lehkonen's a 40-point player playing with superstars, so they're boosting him by 15 or 20 points, and those guys, unless you're certain that he's hanging on from start to finish, it's hard to give him that boost all the way.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. And then another guy who you're not the only one that I've seen down on him compared to last year, but thought it'd be interesting to get your take on is Andrei Kuzmenko over in Vancouver. Great rookie season, 73 points, 38 goals, and you have him down to 67. So like not too far down from last year, but a little bit down. I know most people are basing this on the shooting percentage. Is that part of your model that just he had too high of a shooting percentage last year?
Yeah, that's the metrics all agree on that. He's way overperforming. Probably the most like at-risk player for a decline in the entire league based on the metrics. I mean, I can't think of another example that would beat that. I mean, everything was so inflated. I mean, if you go to his frozen tools page, his profile page, and you go to his the buy sell meter on the advanced stats tab, it's lit up like a Christmas tree. Mm-hmm. It's just bright red.
So are you thinking even maybe having too high at 67? But I guess like the counterpoint with Kuzmenko is like, yeah, he like had that great shooting percentage. The one thing that gets me still interested in him is I remember last year there were stretches where he was getting bumped to like the bottom six, like getting bumped from the power play, like especially early on. It seems like by the end of the season, he like kind of established himself as being a clear, like probably top line with Pettersson all season, top power play. So it's, with Pettersson, I'd imagine the metrics aren't too, people love Pettersson, and if Kuzmenko's going to be with him all the time, Kuzmenko obviously isn't like a Lehkonen, even like a 40-point guy, like you said, like before going superstar. So I wonder if maybe now he'll become a value guy if people are too like, scared of that high shooting percentage.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm open to it, but he reminds me a little bit about like Kubalik. But obviously a better Kubalik, right? Like Kubalik had 30 goals and like 45 points or whatever it was. Remember that first year he came in, he was 30
with Chicago.
And then after that, it's like high teens and mid 30s for his points. So it just kind of came back to earth. Kuzmenko might be twice that player, or not quite, but I still see kind of a similar decline percentage wise, if you know what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. So maybe he's down more like a 30 goal, 65 point player.
Yeah, which is basically
that sort of thing. So it's still very valuable. And because he has that kind of track record, what he did last year was awesome. So he's punched his ticket for that first line. He'll get first look and a long look, and he'll
we'll have to see. Maybe he could take more shots, and that will help, because he only took 1.8 shots per game, but then still scored 38 goals, which is crazy. So he'll need to either shoot more, or he's going to
Yeah.
score many
So if he
fewer
can go to
goals.
like 2.2 shots and get 35 goals, still almost the same result and not that much of a decline, but a little more reasonable shot percentage.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of like William Karlsson in his first year in Vegas. How
Yeah,
he
another
wasn't shooting that much and
example.
scored like
Yeah, yeah,
40.
yeah.
And yeah,
So,
he definitely went down from there. We had a question from one of our patrons, Nolan M, that wanted us to talk about your Arizona projections. He was interested because, like, it seems like Barrett Hayton kind of like cemented himself as a good centerman to play with Keller and Schmaltz.
yeah.
But you actually have Logan Cooley, the rookie, like with more points than Hayton. You have Cooley pacing for 60 and Hayton at 54. Is this based on like you expecting some of those line combinations to change, or do you think like even regardless of if Hayton gets to play with the two best wingers on the team, that you still expect Cooley just being the better player, the higher pedigree guy, to be able to still get more points?
Yeah. Well, Hayden is I think he's locked in on that line. He did really well with them, and the points that he got last year was with them. So he should improve this year. But the difference between him and Cooley is, I think Cooley is going to come in and other than Bedard, he would have, if it weren't for Bedard, he would win the Calder. Like, I really high on Cooley and his offensive upside. Hayton, if you look at the metrics, he's really turning into like a shutdown for really good shutdown forward. They're giving him pure defensive shutdown minutes. He's out there against the top guys, the top opponents, the top lines. He's seeing defensive zone starts, and not only that, but he's driving possession forward. He's being very, very successful. I'm not gonna compare him to Bergeron, but I mean, he's like a guy he seems to be going down that road where he'll be like their future Couturier or something like that, where he's still productive offensively, but used as more of a shutdown guy. Eric Sinek, another example. Whereas Cooley won't be. Cooley will be, especially the first year, he'll be sheltered. He'll be getting all the offensive zone starts. He'll be anchoring that second line, and he'll be the guy, the driver on that second line, right? And taking passes from one of the better setup, youngsters out there, Michelli.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you're saying like
I see Cooley getting more points, but it'll be close. What do I got them within 2 points of each other? 3. So
yeah, like I looked at the paces, it was like 60 versus 54, but yeah, that's like a good week and a bad week, and it could easily be close. Yeah, those will be interesting guys to follow. Yeah, Arizona, I mean, I've fallen into this trap before, but like on paper, Arizona doesn't actually look like as bad, as like I think a lot of people just assume Arizona is terrible, but like the way you have it here, Michelli, Cooley, Genther as the second line, which is exciting, especially if Genther and Cooley, reach their potential, and then, or at least somewhat of it as rookies, but like, and then Jason Zucker on the third line. Like if you have Zucker and Kraus and Bjorkstad as your third line, that's not too shabby. So
no, it's good.
I'll be curious to see how they do.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a couple defensemen to throw at you before I let you go here. Charlie McAvoy is interesting. You brought up Bergeron, like he's not going to be there anymore on Boston, which a lot of people are a little bit concerned. And Bergeron's gone, Krejci's gone. Like, are the Bruins still going to be good? Are they still going to be able to get points? So I thought it was a little interesting that you actually have McAvoy projected for I see here 64 points in 74 games. Which would be like his most ever points. And actually, if you project that out, that's like a 71 point pace. And he's never paced for more than actually like 64 last year. So last year was McAvoy's best season, where he had 52 points and 57, which is a 64 point pace. So is this kind of like what you were saying about Dylan Strome? Like, see that as a stepping stone to him being able to do better? And like, do you have any concerns about, because another concern with McAvoy that I've had is like last year there were stretches where he lost power play. I guess it didn't hurt him in terms of his total points. He still was able to have a career year. But yeah, I'm curious to know what like brought you to get McAvoy even higher.
Yeah, no, it was so you gotta, I guess you're in one of two camps. Is McAvoy a driver or a passenger, right? Is he feeding off of Bergeron and Krejci losing that? Is that going to impact him or is, he the driver and he running things? And they still have, don't forget a top 5 guy, and Pasternak still there, and Marchand isn't too shabby either. I'm still seeing the trend, and I'm seeing him entering his prime, 25 years old. So look at this season by season, points per game.
Yeah, just up and up.
0.48, 0.59, 0.72, 0.78. I got there. So next step is 0.85, 0.9, and around there.
Yeah. So I guess it's reasonable. Yeah. If you just follow that trend, I guess we'll just have to see how it all works out with the deployment and the, is this one that you would say you were like, with the confidence level, are you like going in on McAvoy? Or are you kind of following the trend?
I'm pretty confident with this one too.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm also confident though that he'll get hurt. Like that's
right.
Will it be 10 games or will it be 20? It could, you could be drafting the guy, and he's one of those players though that is a big risk for a long-term injury. And so, how do you replace a guy like that who you're probably going to be drafting pretty high if he's on the shelf for 2 months, right? Like that could ruin your season if you take him too high.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, looking at these games played that I project as well is important.
Yeah, no, for sure. Charlie McAvoy definitely last year missed some time and probably hurt a lot of people. It was good when he was playing, but yeah, it's hard to project a full season. Okay, this next projection I want to ask you about is one I really hope you're right about, because I've got this guy in a couple of my dynasty leagues here, Tony DeAngelo. So he's coming off obviously a really down year in Philly, which still wasn't like terrible, like 42 points in 70 games, so 49-point pace. And he obviously missed a bunch of games at the end because he kept on getting healthy scratched. And obviously that doesn't help anyone. If he's, like I said, like when he misses games, usually I like to at least be able to put the guy on my IR. If they're healthy scratch, it's not helping anybody. You have to drop him. But yeah, you have a big bounce back for DeAngelo, pacing for 58.
So yeah, it's a coach thing. That's Tortorella not liking him and Brindamore getting the most out of him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He proved himself there already. We've already seen what he can do. So
yeah, it's still lower, I guess, than he had, like in terms of pace, than his first year in Carolina, which I guess makes sense since now you have him on the second power play and Burns on the first power play.
I didn't have Burns, yeah. So that's the reason there. But yeah, no, I like his upside. Very talented offensive guy, and Brindamore we saw was able to get the most out of that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's another guy you'd probably be able to get like pretty late. And obviously if you get near 60-point pace from someone that you're getting later in the draft, that's obviously really great. A couple other power play 2 guys to end the show. One you actually mentioned before, how Vancouver actually mentioned both of these guys when you're talking about your pairs. So like Vancouver has paired Quinn Hughes now with Phil Hronek, and you've got Hronek for a 56-point pace. And like we've been doing these mock drafts, and Hronek's been going undrafted. And a lot of these drafts are going in like the last round. So
you know what? That's pretty sweet waiver pickup then, right? I really, no, especially this. I'm really confident in him in the first half of the season. He came out strong last year as well, first half, and a little worried about the injury that I got last year, but as far as coming out of the gates and grabbing it, if he goes undrafted or if you could take him late, that's pretty sweet. Because in the brief window that he was in Vancouver's lineup, he played with Hughes when they were both healthy. And that's a lefty righty thing. He may not get the power play time he had, but with Detroit, but at even strength, he's got a great partner, I think.
Cool. Yeah. So Hronek could be a nice late steal. And then the other guy, okay, this guy I've got in my dynasty league, and I have the option to drop him because he just signed an 8-year, $6+ million contract. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to keep him, though. Your projection had me at least opening my eyes a little bit about the possibility. But Damon Severson moving over to Columbus, on your Columbus page, one thing that jumped out at me right away is a big red dot beside Severson's name, projecting that maybe he'd be on the top power play along with Werenski, and then Gaudreau, Jenner, and Laine. So if that happens, obviously that'd be really great. And you have him pacing out to almost a 50-point pace, 48 points, which I guess you're saying now isn't that good if 50 is the new 40. But jumped out a
Yeah,
bit to me if you think that Severson could be a 50-ish point
yeah.
top power play
And
defenseman.
that's Columbus now, I think, has better options on the power play on defense than they do at forward. And that's why I think they'll go 3-2. Whereas, most other teams, it's the opposite way. They have more talent up front and maybe one guy that's, can really move the puck well on the blue line, and they'll go 4-1. But Columbus, they got, that first line, and that's it as far as proven, upper tier talent goes.
I see. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, they have a lot of up and coming guys that obviously we could get excited about, like Fantilli, Marchenko, Kent Johnson, but maybe they don't want to like give these unestablished players the top power play. And maybe it'll probably change a lot throughout the season. So that'll be another really fun team to watch.
And even so, they would have, then they got Boquist and
Jurček.
Yeah, that's the name.
Provorov also in there.
Yeah, I mean, they got options for another. They got so many good, like their defensemen are. If they can all stay healthy, it's pretty good puck moving ability there. That's why I think they'll go to and use at least 4 of their defensemen for the power play.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that'll be another fun team. Yeah, like Arizona. I feel like Columbus and Arizona might be a little better than people are expecting. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Man, Dobber, I could just talk to you all night. It's so fun to just like get your reasonings behind all of these projections. Yeah, it's been an honor having you on the show. Is this the first time you ever been on Keeping Karlsson?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So yeah, we've had like all your staff, but finally we got the head honcho.
Yeah. Well, I was going to come on a few years ago. Remember? Then I had the
of course,
the cancer diagnosis and to duck out. It was like that week.
Oh wow!
Remember that?
I obviously remember you going through that, but I didn't recall that we had a show.
No, I was scheduled for the show, and then I was like, guys, I got to drop out. It'll all come clear in a few days.
Oh, okay. Now it's starting. Okay, I gotta go check my email history. But yeah, so I guess people are curious. Like, how is everything with that? Like, are you fully in the clear at this point?
Yeah, no. The last week was 6 years.
That's amazing.
So yeah, 6 years post transplant. So yeah, feeling healthy.
Okay, really glad to hear. We want to have many more years of these guides, right? Like here in the chat, Matthew wrote, great guide, Sir Dobber, sir. Thanks for everything year after year. Yeah, just a staple of playing fantasy hockey is going to dobberhockey.com, getting that guide every year, that the mid-season guide, like the prospects guide now. You've got it all covered. And so yeah, it's been really fun talking to you. Anything else you want to tell people about before I
again, I download my goalie post app. So on the iPhone and the Android in the store, Dobber's goalie post, or just goalie post, I think you'll find it. Download it, check it out.
Then you get like push notifications for goalie starts.
Yeah, well, right now it's email, but we'll have push set up within hopefully a couple of weeks. So hopefully before the season. But but also the the usual goalie grid that you have that you see. I also set up a win probability bar, so it'll go, one goalie or the other. It'll give kind of weighting and factoring in recent trends, season to date trends, home versus road, back to back, that sort of thing, and also a save projection bar for that game. Looking at a lot of the same things, opponents, how they've been doing recently. Yeah, it's a big thing. It factors in a lot of things, but just a couple of cool features that'll be that's on that. It's a free app, so what do you got to lose?
Might as well go get it. And also, I'm not sure if I've promoted it enough today, but Frozen Tools, man, I'm obsessed with that site. I use it all the time. If Frozen Tools ever went down, the podcast would have to go on hiatus while I figure something out.
Yeah. It's a tab that's never closed. Usually 2 or 3 tabs on my computer.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, once again, thanks so much for coming on. Thanks, obviously, everyone for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And also, Brian and I tiered defensemen last week, and we tiered goalies the week before. So make sure to check out all of our content. But yeah, Dobber, thanks again. And everyone,
thank you. And congrats on 500 episodes.
Yeah, nothing more fitting than to get you on for episode 500.
Yeah.
All right. Have a great night.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, guys.
Sweet. That was amazing. Thanks so much.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah. It
I'll
was, you kept it easy for me. Thank you. I
yeah.
appreciate the heads up on the list because, it was like a little over a month ago, I released it, right? And it's 800 players.
Yeah. No, I figured
So
you wouldn't have it all memorized.
I'm like, what was I thinking there? And then I look at it again and he gave me, so I was able to jot down a couple of things that I was thinking then. And yeah,
Oh,
it
perfect.
really helped. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. So I'll work on this. I'll try to get this out tonight. And thanks again also everyone who watched live, by the way. See, we're still recording. So yeah. See. All right. So yeah, bye Dobber and bye everyone. And yeah, I'll let you know when the show's ready to go.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Bye everybody. So good, right? That was fun. Anyway, I'll stop now. Bye.